Well, there's a certain word which seems to be very innocuous, very innocent, as well as has connotations which are really positive, and it generates a feeling of fraternity, brotherhood, fellowship. But the way it's used is fraught with danger. I refer to diversity. I go to the corporate sector and I find that the boards should have diversity. The Prime Minister of Canada, when he was going to take an oath, he said he'll have diversity, and the purpose of diversity was to give 50% of the cabinet positions to women. President-elect Trump is being derided, condemned, criticized for not having diversity in his cabinet, though he has 3 women, 2 Indians, 2 blacks, but no, still they are not satisfied because 50% are not blacks or women. Now, what's this diversity? And what's the real connotation? Diversity means the different demographic groups, and what is being bandied about in corporate circles and in the politically correct terminology that each group should be represented. Now, India adopted the same under a different name, and the name was reservations. The downtrodden must be given reservations as an affirmative action, the same thing which President Kennedy and Martin Luther King tried in USA to promote the blacks. India tried to promote them, and then each and every caste and subcaste started clamoring to be given the reservation. Even the affluent ones. Now, what do we want? Do we want management, and do we want the administration to be honest, to be dedicated to the people, and to perform their jobs? Or do we want to ensconce incompetent people in positions of power and authority where they may not be able to deliver, but are there because they happen to be born in a different unit, in a visible minority, as a transgender, as a black, as a brown, as a woman? What's more important? Is it efficiency, or is it the color of your skin and your sexual orientation? Taken to the extreme, diversity, say in the Canadian context, would mean that if there are 35 ministers, there should be 1 each from a different cultural subgroup, at least 1 each from a different sexual orientation. So different sexual orientation means 5 ministers representing gays, lesbians, transgenders, bisexuals, transvestite. Okay. There are 144 languages spoken in Toronto. So there are 144 culture groups inherent. I'm taking Toronto as a representative city of Canada. So 144 plus 5 is 149. There must be 1 from women, 150. There are 18 to 20 different tribes of native Canadians, 170. So there should be 170 ministers, representing different culture groups. Is it not a mockery? Long back, Pope had said, East or West, home is the best, followed by, he said, administered is the best. What we want is a proper administration. I do not care if the minister is a Sikh or a Hindu, or a Christian or a Jew or a Muslim. I do not care whether there is a lesbian or a transvestite, or a transgender or a gay. I do not care what's the color of his or her skin. I want a person who can deliver the goods, who has probity. You appoint a person as a minister, although legally she should have been behind bars or should have been deported. You appoint a person as a minister simply because he belongs to a certain vocal minority group. You appoint a person simply because that group needs to be represented. What are you doing? You are sacrificing efficiency at the altar of political expediency. This is in fact politically correctness gone haywire. This is what I would call coming down to the lowest level. Now the common factor in diversity representation would be not the GCM, greatest common factor, but LCM, the lowest common denominator. And who suffers ultimately? The people who suffer. We have seen in India how the quality of life has suffered because incompetent engineers and incompetent doctors make life hell over there. We have seen it in India, where the reservations ensured that all the bright people left the country. The brain drain was there. Do we want that to happen even here in Canada or in USA? But that would happen. When the competent people get frustrated at the altar of political expediency, that frustration has two results. Either they leave or they become rebels. And an genius turned rebel is a dangerous combination. That is the reason of the increasing depression and mental illness. You want to have diversity on the boards. If you have a token diversity, that is of no use. Say you appoint one person from a visible minority to a board. As a token representative, you can say, we have multidisciplinary, multi-diversity, multi-community board of directors. But the board has certain obligations. That person may not be able to understand it. Why cannot we say that if they are equal, yes, okay, give some preference to the group that is unrepresented. But even that is wrong. The whole thing smacks of two things. A, to ensure that mediocre and incompetent people come into power, that the merit is sacrificed, and only the hangers-on are rewarded. This is a way of giving the plum jobs to those people who are inefficient, but being inefficient, they have the office, so they are obliged to you. This obligation to you as a person overcomes the desire to work. It breeds nepotism, it breeds corruption, and it breeds fragmentation of society. I have seen when one incompetent person comes, he recruits more incompetent people so that his incompetence may not be revealed. Long back when I was doing my doctorate, I had a chance of meeting David Ogilvy, the father of advertising. And we were sitting together and talking, and he said, look here, if you are CEO of a company, appoint people who are more intelligent than you are. Because that would prompt them to appoint people who are more intelligent than they are. So the cascading effect would be that the company will become a company of geniuses. On the other side, if you appoint people who are inferior to you are, they'll appoint people who are inferior to you, to them, and the thing goes on, and the result is the morons and the idiots who will be running that company and working over there. And that would be a disaster. And that is what's going to happen. That is happening, and that would happen in the countries where, under the garb of diversity representation, we are sacrificing merit, capability, as well as desire to work. We are stunting the growth of intellect and growth of initiative. We are stultifying innovation. We are killing merit and promoting cronyism, flattery, sycophancy, incompetence. You see, politically correctness is a disease, it's an epidemic. It's spreading, but it has taken a walk on all aspects of progress. Friends, you have got to understand that life cannot be considered as something visualized by your prejudices. A desire to work with inferior people to perpetuate your rule under the garb of giving respectability to inefficiency, incompetency, is a hallmark of diversity representation. Secondly, even if you competent person gets appointed as a token, he doesn't do anything because he knows that when the vote is taken, his vote would have no value. And the other members, whether of the cabinet or of the board, while showing all the courtesy and politeness, look down on him. He feels mentally isolated, with the result that he conforms. He accepts whatever the majority says, and he has nothing to contribute. So the whole diversity, the concept, becomes a farce and is only an attempt to perpetuate the rule of mediocrity, the rule of unintelligent, the rule of stupidity. And that is a hallmark. Now, the point arises, why do we do it? As I said, we do it to perpetuate our personal rule. We want to sacrifice the politicians, the good governments, for more votes so that they can perpetuate their rule. It's easy to rule on them. You give handouts, you buy people, and you sacrifice administration. You have seen what's happening because of that. We have seen it in India. We are seeing it here in Canada today. It is high time we realize that it's a competence, it's the merit which should be a supreme deciding factor, rather than your color, your culture group, your religion, the color of your skin, or your sexual orientation. They are not matters of concern. What concerns to me and should be of concern to anybody should be the capability that is here and the desire to serve, not anything else. There cannot be, there should not be a compromise. And the people who are carping about Trump's not having diversity should realize He's bringing in the best possible people, the best who work in the interest of the country. And that is what is needed. It's high time all of us realize that diversity for the sake of diversity is not only meaningless, it has deleterious and harmful effects. Avoid it. Avoid it like